Hi, this is Joseph DeLacy, locked down, long-haired and totally loony. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my Black Shuck title, Tales of New Mexico. It's got a little bit of a story behind it. Originally, the first book, or the first story, which is called The Gathering of Sheaves, I wrote for an anthology that came out from Jurassic London, and that was titled A Town Called Pandemonium, and it was a great anthology with all the stories being set in in the environs of a fictitious town in New Mexico called Pandemonium. Horror, sci-fi, fantasy, the lot all mixed together with a kind of Western vibe, as it's set, I think, in 1853 or 1863, around that time. Now, there was a second anthology planned, and we all wrote stories for it, but unfortunately that book was never published, and that was called The Streets of Pandemonium, and was set 50 years after the original. So both of the stories are period pieces with a little bit of historical kind of Western vibe in them, and a little bit of the kind of prohibition vibe in the second story. But anyway, very quickly, the two stories that I wrote, the first one was called The Gathering of Sheaves, and is the tale of an English botanist who, in search of a healing plant, a medicinal plant that he has deep confidence and belief in, he finds himself traveling through Texas to New Mexico to see if he can collect samples, and gets into all sorts of difficulty out there. The second tale, which is called The Vespertine, is a story of an Austrian vampire who hates himself because of the illness that he has and what it causes him to do, and he too travels the great distance to New Mexico, in fact, to find the same medicine man that our hero from the first story interacts with. Only in The Vespertine, he's looking to be healed from vampirism. So The Vespertine is about a man who travels in the shadows, hence the Vespers, and it's quite dark, it's quite bloody, a lot of violence and gore. And the first one is more of a visionary story, lots of kind of psychedelic elements to it, in extraterrestrial psychedelic elements, both of which were great fun to write. So I'm going to read you a little bit from the first story, The Gathering of Sheaves, and hopefully that will whet your appetite to pick up a copy for yourself. And it begins with a quote from one of the characters in the story, a medicine man by the name of Chigga 9 Ren. And he says, "In the desert there is earth and sky and silence. The spirits find peace here, but the living encounter only torment." The sunlight was still and total, like the reflection of some vast steel blade. Even under the brim of his hat, it was hard to see without squinting. Something flickered in his periphery. A bird? Nicholson turned toward the movement and heard a rising whistle. The sound ceased as something punched him in the guts, causing him to cough. Even in the searing light he could see the shaft of the arrow, carved with swirling glyphs, protruding from his abdomen. He looked in the direction the flights of the arrow pointed. Nothing moved in the desert. He took the knife from its sheath in his belt and slit open his shirt. Blood seeped modestly from the wound, its lips tight to the body of the arrow. He bent to inspect it, and the wound bubbled. He turned his nose away. When he looked back, a watery broth of feces had turned his blood brown. He folded to his knees and fell to his side, his hat rolling free. From the brush in the distance rose a figure. It stood still. In time, its shadow lengthened. April 5th, 1853, Langtree, Texas. After lodging in a hostelry by the name of Hogan's, the most flea-ridden establishment I have yet encountered, I am exhausted and no longer certain how far west I can travel, whilst yet retaining my manners and my sanity. I was obliged to share a dormitory with 3 fragrant cattlemen, shit-kickers as they proudly refer to themselves, who snored and broke wind with such ferocity the stench would have kept me awake if the noise hadn't. I fear my own alimentary canal will soon be similarly compromised. This morning I was once again served pork and beans to break my fast. Before I could protest, 2 raw eggs were stirred into the brown mess. Without nourishment, I will faint in the constant heat, but already I feel the growls of objection from within. I would give my silver timepiece for an apple, I swear it. I itch from scalp to soles with uncountable insect bites, and my spine is sore from the warped pallet which served as my bed. These are observations, not complaints, I hasten to add. A gentleman, particularly an Englishman treading unfamiliar soil, must keep his discomforts to himself. I am an ambassador merely by my presence in this country, and I note my circumstances for posterity, not because I am frail or trepid. It is a short walk from Hogan's to Langtry's only tavern, referred to as a saloon in these environs, where I hope to ask local men about the cactus. In particular, the lawman who owns the establishment, a Judge Roy Bean, who oversees arrests and sentencing in this area. I have been told he is more familiar with this wilderness and that he may be well informed regarding local flora. White light, white heat, an ache the size of a boulder swelling in his abdomen. Nicholson rolls onto his back and groans as the ache sharpens, a giant fishhook tugging on his guts. Glare blind, he reaches out for his hat, his fingers finding rocks, thorns, and the hair-like spines of succulents. Something hard scuttles away when his fingers touch it, and he snatches his hand back. No hat. A shadow falls across him. Squinting up, all he can see is the black shape of a man between him and the sun. The figure crouches and touches his wounded belly. Nelson draws breath to scream, but the man-shadow's knife blade steals his cry as it slides in deep beside the shaft of the arrow. The fishhook is removed. He tries to scream again, but the light of the world goes out. April 5th, 1853, Langtry, Texas. All you'll find west of the Pecos is lawlessness and Indians. Pray you don't find them on the same day. The first words out of Roy Bean's mouth when I attempted to explain what I was looking for. The man was short, pot-bellied, and unwashed. Streams of yellow tainted his white beard and moustache, and his clothes were bleached pale by sun and dust. He carried some great unspoken weight in every wrinkle, and looked as dead as the desert, save for the oases of his eyes. If I'd met him on the fair streets of Glastonbury, I'd have taken him for a vagrant, but in this realm he was judge, jury, and executioner. I say they were his first words. He looked at me for a long time before he spoke them, ruminating on some unseen mass, and produced a jet of black spittle, absorbed immediately it touched the parched earth. He gazed out from the uneven porch of his whiskey-stocked courthouse into the expanse of nothingness beyond. It was only then that he fixed me in those viper-quick eyes and made his pronouncement. I waited for more information, but the man had nothing more to offer. My investigations are entirely botanical in essence, Judge Bean, a serious pursuit which will further natural history and likely enrich the spirit of man. I am not a troublemaker. I do not aim to fall foul of any blackguards, lawless, native, or otherwise. For a moment the man looked surprised, but a hot breeze tugged at his wild, stained beard, and he fell prey once more to the heavy scowl forced upon him, it seemed, by the weight of the sky. Aim's got nothing to do with it. He sat down on a 3-legged stool beside an upturned barrel and lifted a jug of liquor to his lips with both hands. But to me he spoke not another word. Nicholson wakes to agony. Though the brightness of the day has faded into twilight, his face is awash with sweat and his blood aflame. The pain in his belly is worse, and it swells with every fevered beat of his heart. A smouldering mound of orange coal glows nearby. Beside the fire he sees the man, still only an outline in the half-light. The man whose crude surgery has wounded him more deeply than the arrow. Hunched over, the silhouetted man whispers, a halting, guttural intonation without rhythm, vowels and consonants that make no sense. He sways now, working on something in front of him. The words become a mumbled song, some kind of incantation or prayer. Nicholson tries to speak. Water. The rocking man doesn't answer. Please. The man glances over and speaks, from the tone, some kind of command. He remains sitting, working on his primitive project. Too weak to ask again, Nicholson can only watch, afloat on thirst and pain. Hours later, the silhouette approaches. He raises Nicholson's head, holds a bowl to his lips. Nicholson drains its contents before retching and coughing, his eyes wide. The spasms send lightning bolts through his wound, and he blacks out for a moment. When he resurfaces, the pain has eased a little, and the fire in his head has receded. The sun has set, and the orange glow of the fire illuminates his benefactor. A young Indian with an old man's manner, lean but powerfully built. Nicholson sees loss and knowledge in eyes too ancient for such a youthful face. Thank you. For what? The medicine. The Indian laughs. In the quiet and creeping chill of evening, the sound is gone too quickly, taken by the desert. Save your gratitude, white man. Am I going to die? The man looks into the settling coals. We've all got it coming. The words stretch out, echoing as though through a tunnel. The fire's light burns brighter and expands. The cold caress of the night is like black liquid, soothing and terrifying, a tide with the power to drown a whole world. Nicholson forces the sensation away. You're a healer to your people? I do what I can. Nicholson rests his head back in the dirt. The darkening sky swirls. Thank the Lord, wounded and saved on the same day. How fortune dabbles. If you truly believe in your God, you'll know it's not fortune, white man. This is fate. The healing of this wound may be beyond me. It's only an expression, murmured Nicholson. I'm not religious. He frowns at the sky. Beneath him, the rocky ground seems to shift. What did you say? The arrow should have entered your right arm. Francis tries to lift his head, but a torpor has ensnared him. The sky presses him into the earth. He is sinking, being buried. You're the one who shot me? The Indian leans over, blotting out the awakening stars. There's no one else out here, just you and me. Why? You're searching for the tracks of the little deer. The Indian's words echo and elongate. Francis frowns again. I don't understand. The Indian laughs. Such will be the epitaph of your people. Only the Great Spirit knows why he made the white man so stupid. The Indian stands up, scanning the night. Why did you come to the desert? I seek a plant, a succulent. People say it has the power to alter the perceptions of men. You have sought, white man, and you have found. None of this is an accident, whether you understand it or not. And there we'll finish for now. I hope you enjoyed if you pick it up.